I've decided to leave the country. I'm done competing with the imposter for a scrap of affection, done begging for my own parents' love. But now that I've stopped, my parents, who have always favored the son they thought was theirs, are suddenly in a panic. Ethan, why aren't you fighting for our attention anymore? A week ago, our family trip to California was cut short by a massive earthquake. In the chaos, my father instinctively scooped up a sleeping Logan and sprinted outside. My mother, scrambling to escape, still remembered to grab the stray dog Logan had recently picked up. They flew back to Chicago on the first available flight, posting a dozen smiling photos on Facebook, celebrating their survival. Not a single person remembered me. I, the real son, was still trapped under the rubble, waiting for rescue. That night, pinned in the darkness, I managed to get a signal and call my old professor. "Dr. Albright," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'll take you up on your offer. I want to move out there to work with you. I'm not coming back." A week later, covered in cuts and bruises, I finally walked through the front door of our house. The sound of music and laughter was deafening. My parents were throwing a party. Friends and relatives filled the living room, celebrating the family of three and their miraculous escape. When my parents saw me, their expressions were a complicated mix of shock and guilt. In the earthquake's terror, they had thought of everything and everyone except me. My mother's eyes welled up, and she rushed forward to pull me into a tight hug. "Oh, Ethan, my baby, you've suffered so much. I once would have dreamt of this embrace." Now I just took 2 small steps back, creating a polite distance between us. "Thanks for your concern," I said. My mother's arms froze in midair. From across the room, Logan's eyes flashed with malice. The next second, his voice dripped with false contrition. "Dad, Mom, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. If you weren't so focused on saving me, Ethan wouldn't have gotten hurt." He turned his teary eyes to me. "Ethan, you can hit me. Please don't do this. Don't pick today of all days to come back and embarrass Mom and Dad. It's my fault." With just a few words, Logan transformed the flicker of guilt on my father's face into a raging fire. "You deliberately chose today, during this party, to come back," he roared. "You want all our friends and family to think we abuse you? To be so manipulative at your age? You're nothing like a son of mine." I stared at him, at this man who was my biological father, in disbelief. I had spent 5 days trapped in the pitch-black ruins. No water, no food, only the echoing screams of others, which grew fainter and fainter until they stopped, and the suffocating, endless fear. There was a moment I thought I wouldn't make it. I pulled out my phone, intending to type a final goodbye to my parents, only to see their latest Facebook post. A string of a dozen photos of them, Logan, and the dog, safe and sound in our warm Chicago home. The caption read, "The luckiest tragedy. Not a single one of us missing." Meanwhile, I was in the dark, clawing away at stone and debris until my hands were raw and bleeding, fighting just for a chance to live. And to him, my survival was a calculated, deliberate act, a minor inconvenience timed to ruin his party. Suddenly, the urge to explain myself vanished. I turned and walked toward my room. Behind me, I heard Logan's phony words of comfort. "Dad, don't be angry. Ethan just wasn't raised right, that's all. We have to be patient with him." My father snorted. "I regret ever bringing him into this house. He's nothing compared to you, Logan. You're the one who's a real son." I closed my bedroom door, and the tears I'd held back finally burst forth. There was never a place for me in this family. I should have been used to it by now, shouldn't I? I picked up my phone and called my professor again. "Dr. Albright, I'm ready. I could be on a flight in a week. I'm ready to focus on my studies, to settle there. I'm never coming back." The next morning, my mother came into my room, her tone laced with disapproval. "Ethan, you shouldn't have just walked away when your father was talking to you yesterday. It was disrespectful, and you deeply disappointed me." Her words caught in her throat. She'd spotted the clothes I'd changed out of, now lying in a heap. In the dim light of the party, she hadn't seen them clearly. Now, in the morning sun, she saw my light gray sweater, almost entirely soaked through with dried, dark red blood. The reality of what I had endured seemed to finally dawn on her. My father walked in behind her and saw the clothes. His lips trembled, almost imperceptibly. He opened his mouth. "Ethan, I was so careless. I didn't realize." I stared at the ceiling, my voice ice cold. "Could you please get out? I need to get dressed." They never noticed me. A paper cut on Logan's finger would send them into a panic, rushing him to an urgent care clinic. Meanwhile, the gash on my knee became infected, oozing for days, and they pretended not to see it, or worse, accused me of faking an injury to compete with Logan for their attention. It wasn't carelessness. They just didn't care. Sensing my coldness, a rare flicker of panic crossed their faces. They were used to me being desperate for their approval. Their frantic eyes scanned the living room, landing on the small table by the window where I used to place a fresh sunflower every single day, a gesture they always dismissed as pointless. My father spoke, his voice strained. "Ethan, you haven't put out a sunflower today. How about I drive you to the flower market to pick some out?" "No, thanks." I used to put a flower there every morning to give myself hope, to remind myself to keep trying to win back their love. Not anymore. I didn't want it anymore. 3 days later was my birthday. It was also Logan's. 23 years ago, in a hospital mix-up, we were swapped at birth. For me, it was the beginning of a 23-year nightmare. Molested by my adoptive father, abused by my adoptive mother. The memories were so sharp, I could barely breathe. My mother wheeled a giant cake into the living room, her face beaming. Spelled out in perfect frosting was a single name, Logan. Mine was nowhere to be seen. The staff set off confetti poppers. My father placed the single, gleaming birthday hat on Logan's head. "Happy 23rd birthday, son. We thank our lucky stars for that accident 23 years ago. It's how we ended up with such a thoughtful, wonderful son like you." My mother chimed in. "It's true. Thank God that nurse made a mistake. It brought you into our lives. We're so grateful to her." A cold dread settled in my stomach. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. The person responsible for my lifelong nightmare was the answer to their prayers. I glanced around at the household staff, all clamoring to give Logan their gifts. These were the same people who had cornered me in the past, whispering warnings. "Don't even try to compete with Mr. Logan. Listen up. There's only one young master in this house. To Mr. and Mrs. Cole, you're just a servant with a fancier title. Know your place." Now, their faces were plastered with sycophantic smiles. Logan, the center of attention, shot me a smug, triumphant look. The room erupted in a chorus of "Happy birthday, Logan." I refused to wish someone else a happy birthday on my own birthday. I turned, went back to my room, and pulled out the gifts I'd hidden in a cheap plastic bag. It was now or never. When I returned to the living room, Logan was dabbing at his eyes, his voice thick with hurt. "Dad, I think Ethan dislikes me. Why won't he even wish me a happy birthday?" My parents' faces darkened, ready to scold me for being so inconsiderate. But then they saw the 2 hand-knitted scarves I held out to them. Their expressions softened. I knew that our neighbor, Mr. Henderson, was always bragging about the scarf his son had made him, and I'd seen the envy in my parents' eyes. It had taken me over 6 months to learn how to knit. My mother held the soft wool to her cheek, her eyes shining. My father immediately wrapped his around his neck, the issue of Logan's birthday forgotten. "Ethan," he asked, his voice softer than I'd heard it in years. "When is your birthday? We have to get you something you'll really love." "It's today," I said. They looked at each other, stunned into silence for a moment. Then my mother forced a laugh. Huh. "We were just kidding, Ethan. Of course, we know it's your birthday today." She hurried out of the room and returned a moment later with a watch box. "See, we got this for you." I opened it. The watch was beautiful, but engraved on the back, in clear, sharp letters, was the name Logan. This time, I didn't scream or throw a fit like I used to. My silence seemed to unnerve my mother more than any outburst ever had. My father started to look flustered, too. She began rummaging frantically through a cabinet. "Ethan, believe me, I really did buy you one. One for each of you boys." Afraid I wouldn't believe her, she added, "We bought them last month, when we all went on that trip abroad." "Believe me." My father's face fell. He gave her a subtle kick, and she realized her mistake. Regret and panic flooded her eyes, terrified that she had upset me. So they had gone on a trip abroad last month. That explained why I'd come home from a weekend class to find the house dark and the doors locked. I held the watch, Logan's reject, in my hand, feeling nothing. "It's fine. This one is fine." To make up for it, they bought me a mountain of gifts over the next few days. I took every single item to my office and gave them away to my colleagues as farewell presents. Meanwhile, the earthquake story was all over the news. A freelance cameraman had accidentally captured footage of my desperate escape from the rubble, and the clip had gone viral, trending everywhere. My parents recognized me instantly. They sat in silence for a long time, heads bowed. That evening, they took Logan and me to a 5-star restaurant downtown. My father raised his glass and proceeded to pour whiskey down his throat, one after another. With each glass, he slurred about what a terrible father he'd been. He said he was sorry. He apologized. For a moment, I almost believed him. But as the alcohol flowed, their true motive surfaced. My mother spoke first, her voice tentative. "Ethan, you know that all the major media outlets are looking for you, right?" She paused. "And you know that Logan. Well, he's always dreamed of being an actor. So we were thinking, maybe you could give this opportunity to him. After all, you can't really see your face clearly in the video." She saw my face harden and quickly added, "It's not that I'm playing favorites, honey. It's just that opportunities should go to the person who needs them most. And I love you both equally." Equally? The word was so absurd, I almost laughed out loud. Suddenly, Logan slid from his chair and knelt on the floor. "Ethan, brother, I know you've never liked me, but I need this chance so badly. I'm begging you." A cold smirk touched my lips. "Fine, you can have it. On one condition. You have to get on your hands and knees and crawl around this restaurant barking like a dog. You do that, and the opportunity is yours." My father's face contorted with rage. "That's ridiculous. Ethan, how can you say that to your brother?" I met his gaze directly. "Why are you so upset?" Those were his exact words to me the first time he refused to let me in the house. "Why the double standard, Dad?" My parents fell silent. It was true. At the time, they'd both tried to placate me, saying Logan was just being mischievous, but he doesn't have a bad heart. They said he had a stubborn streak and that I should just do what he said. I sighed, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. I might as well lay it all out. "Dad, you took us hiking once. Logan complained he felt neglected, so you left me on a mountain by myself. I walked for 3 hours in the dark, listening to coyotes howl, just to get home. How can favoritism be so absolute? If you wanted me dead, you could have just said so. This miserable life is yours to take back whenever you want." I turned to my mother. "Mom, to keep Logan from feeling left out, you went to every single one of his parent-teacher conferences, but you never came to one of mine." The other kids whispered that I was an orphan. But I wasn't, was I? I had a mother. I let the silence hang in the air. "I'm your biological son. What sin did I commit in a past life to deserve this from you?" By the time I finished, my cheeks were wet with tears. I hadn't realized I was crying. I thought I was past the point of being hurt by them. For the first time, I saw a flicker of emotion on their faces. I wiped my eyes and managed a difficult, watery smile. "Fine. Let Logan have what he wants. Give him the opportunity." My parents looked up, relief flooding their faces. Before they could thank me, I added my final sentence. "Consider it payment for the gift of my birth. After this, we're even." My father stared at me, his face suddenly slack. "What does that mean?" I decided to be perfectly clear. "It means that from this moment on, you have no parental claim on me, and I owe you nothing. We have no relationship." My mother panicked completely. No. I carried you for 10 months. You're my flesh and blood. How could you?" I shrugged. "Then Logan doesn't get his chance." They fell silent, exchanging a look of pure, agonizing indecision. After a long moment, my father clenched his jaw. "I agree." As the words left his mouth, a victorious smirk spread across Logan's face. My vision blurred. Once again, when forced to choose between me and Logan, my biological parents had chosen Logan. Using my blood-soaked sweater as a prop, Logan gave a series of heart-wrenching interviews to the media. The talent agency seized the moment, and offers for television roles started pouring in for him. My parents seemed to think my declaration at the restaurant was just an angry outburst. They began a clumsy, overt campaign to make amends. They went through their Facebook history and deleted all the posts from after the earthquake. They photoshopped my face into their profile picture, a photo of their smiling family of 3. They dragged me out for professional family portraits, hanging oversized prints on their bedroom walls. They swore to me, over and over, that they would never be biased again. But I remained polite, distant, and utterly indifferent. My previous eagerness to please was gone. With each passing day, they grew more and more frantic. Finally, my father announced he was throwing a massive party to formally introduce me to their social and business circle, an event that should have happened years ago, but was always postponed for fear of upsetting Logan. While they were busy with their plans, I was busy packing. The day before my flight, after everything was sorted, I went to say goodbye to my friend Alex. He was my only friend. At his apartment, the entertainment news was on TV. They were running a clip of an interview with my father. "Mr. Cole," the reporter asked, "what is Mr. Logan Rivers like at home?" My father beamed. "He's the light of our lives, the only son on whom we pin all our hopes. We just finalized our will yesterday. In fact, all of our assets will be left to him." So, he stopped abruptly, his eyes widening in horror as he realized what he'd just said on camera. But the bias was so ingrained it seeped out of his pores, even when he tried to hide it. So, I was the biological son, but in the end, I wouldn't get a single penny. The love and the money were both for the adopted son, Logan. With a cold smile, I pulled out my phone and forwarded the video clip to my father. Half an hour later, as Alex was giving me a tearful farewell hug, my phone began ringing incessantly. It was my mother. "Ethan, it's a disaster. Your father's lost it. He's fighting with a reporter. You have to get down here." When I arrived, my father was wrestling with a journalist on the sidewalk, a crowd of onlookers gaping at the spectacle. "I told you I misspoke," my father screamed, his face purple with rage. "And you're still going to air it? Are you deaf? Do you have any idea how serious this is? You bastard. I'll kill you." A few security guard my mother had called finally arrived and pulled them apart. Only then did my father notice me standing there. His expression shifted to one of pure panic. "Ethan, I didn't mean it. It just slipped out, I swear. Please don't be angry, okay?" His voice was pleading. "Ethan, trust me one last time. Please don't be angry. Don't leave your mother and me." I stood on the edge of the crowd, watching his pathetic, desperate display. It was a mirror image of how I had begged him, countless times, to believe me when Logan had lied and said I'd pushed him into the pool. He never believed me. Not once. Instead, he'd point a finger in my face and yell, "How could I have a son like you? I wish I could just throw you out of this house." I nodded slowly and helped him to his feet. "I know, Dad. Let's go home." My calmness terrified him more than any screaming match would have. That night, he frantically moved the date of the big party to the very next day. "Ethan, we'll hold a party tomorrow. We'll announce your return to everyone, okay?" He barely waited for an answer before he was on the phone, barking orders at caterers and event planners. My mother was just as frantic, calling their entire contact list to inform them of the change. And me? Before the sun rose the next morning, I was in a car on my way to the airport. I looked back one last time in the direction of the house. "Dad, Mom, I wish you happiness, and I wish you a life without me." As the clock struck 7, my phone began to light up with a relentless barrage of calls. I pressed the power button, holding it down until the screen went black. I put on my mask and earplugs, and for the first time in a long time, I looked forward to what would happen after the plane landed. For hours later, we touched down in Colorado. Professor Albright was there to meet me, along with a few of his research students. He was my favorite professor from college, and when I had confided in him about my family situation, he'd wept. Since he and his wife couldn't have children of their own, they had come to see me as a son. When they moved to Colorado to set up a new research institute, they had begged me to come with them. He knew I was miserable, both in my adoptive home and with my biological parents. I got a new SIM card and followed him deep into the mountains to the research facility. The signal was poor, and our only connection to the outside world was a single, old television. For weeks, that TV was filled with missing person reports. The missing person was me. There were videos of the famous CEO Robert Cole and his wife, crying and pleading with their son to come back. "We were wrong, son. Please just come home. It's dangerous out there. If anything happens to you, how will we live?" "Ethan, my baby, Mommy was wrong," my mother cried to the cameras. "I'll never play favorites again, I promise. I'll listen to you, I'll really listen." Journalists and talk show hosts took turns delivering stern rebukes aimed at me. "You only get one family. When you see your parents begging for you to come back like this, even a heart of stone should be moved. You were brought into this world by them. Instead of being grateful, you make them worry like this. It's despicable, hateful, and pathetic." Then Logan, now a rising B-list celebrity, made a tearful appearance. "Ethan, I know you're upset. From now on, if you want something of mine, I won't fight you for it. I'll just give it to you. Please just come back." He turned to the camera, his eyes glistening. "At home, you always said your adoptive parents were good to you, and it broke Mom and Dad's hearts. And now you're abandoning them over a dispute about the inheritance. Please stop being so stubborn, brother. Come home." I clenched my fists. When I first came back to them, my parents had shown some measure of pity. I cried and told them about the abuse from my adoptive parents. I'd pulled up my sleeves to show them the scars, and they had looked horrified. But Logan had immediately sown discord, insisting I was using a sob story to gain sympathy. He even brought my adoptive parents to our house to prove how well they had treated me. Caught in the middle, with no one to back me up, I had no way to defend myself. And just like that, my parents' misunderstanding of me deepened. In the research center's common room, no one knew the stories were about me. "Wow, even his brother Logan is begging him to come back. This son is a real piece of work," one of the grad students muttered, shaking his head at the screen. "He's either stupid or just plain evil. So he only came back to get his parents' money? Why would they even bother looking for a son like that?" I lowered my eyes, preparing to say nothing. I wasn't going to try to clear my name. I'd learned long ago that at home, no one ever believed my clarifications. I was used to swallowing the lies and accusations. Professor Albright, who had been dishing out dinner, froze. He walked over and smacked each of the students lightly on the head with his chopsticks. "What are you all talking about? The person these scoundrels are looking for is your new colleague." Every head in the room swiveled to look at me. My ingrained instinct was to shrink, to belittle myself, to placate them. But before I could speak, their tune changed completely. What? If Ethan doesn't want to go back, he must have his reasons. This family is masters of the guilt trip. I've worked with Ethan for a month now. I know what kind of person he is. And that Logan guy, what a passive-aggressive creep. I'm unfollowing him right now. And those reporters are trash. They'll say whatever they're paid to. Ethan, don't you go back there. They'll never find you here. Damn it, what a bunch of garbage. And I actually thought their pleas were sincere. They make my friend, one of the kindest, most decent people I know, sound like a monster. Unbelievable. I turned my back to them, letting my tears fall silently into my bowl of rice. For the first time in 23 years, someone was defending me. Life in the mountains was tough, but it was infinitely better than the life I had left behind. The missing person reports ran on TV for a solid month. My new friends, unable to stand it, finally just turned the television off whenever I was around and tried to distract me. I thought this peaceful, supportive atmosphere could last forever. But 6 months later, my parents found me. They showed up carrying bags and boxes of supplies, and the moment they saw me, they burst into tears. Ethan, you're so thin. Please come home with us, son. Are you cold here? Are you eating enough? Ethan, you changed your number. We had no way to find you. We called dozens of friends, searched for half a year. We just found out you were here. Please, son, come home with us. I took 2 steps back, putting space between us. Mr. Cole, Mrs. Cole, we already severed our relationship. I paused. Do I need to remind you that your son, Logan, is a huge star now? You should be keeping your promises to him. Their eyes reddened, and they stammered, trying to find the words. Just then, Professor Albright spotted us and came jogging over, pulling me into a protective embrace. What are you people doing here? He demanded. Haven't you tormented him enough? I clung to him tightly, the word escaping my lips before I could stop it, full of a lifetime of longing. Dad? A month earlier, with the entire research team as witnesses, I had formally asked Professor Albright to be my godfather. I would be the one to care for him in his old age. My biological father froze. The tears that had been welling in his eyes suddenly spilled over. The next second, he grabbed for me frantically. Ethan, I'm your father. Ethan, look at me. You used to say you loved me most of all. My mother was panicking too. Ethan, don't be so cruel to us. I shook their hands off, my patience wearing thin. Mr. Cole, Mrs. Cole, Logan is your son. Don't get confused. They stood there, stunned into silence, as the realization finally, truly, hit them. The son who used a trail after them like a shadow. The son who was always eager to rub their shoulders and massage their tired feet. The son who, no matter how harshly they yelled at him, would still manage to force a smile through his tears. They had finally lost him for good. My father swayed on his feet, his voice raspy. Ethan, it's fine if you won't acknowledge us, but you should go see your adoptive parents. Logan told us. They're getting older, and they've been looking for you too. I met Professor Albright's eyes. He understood what I was thinking and nodded at me. Go. The work here isn't urgent. I'll give you a month off. Okay. I flew back to the States with them. All the filth they'd made me swallow, I was about to spit it right back out. On the plane, they misunderstood my motives, thinking I was feeling sentimental about my adoptive parents. They chattered on and on about how much my adoptive parents missed me, a clear attempt to guilt me into staying. Ethan, after you left, your adoptive parents started looking for you every day. They're simple people, not very educated. All they could do was wait at the edge of the village, day after day. It broke Logan's heart to see it. You see, it was wrong of you to just abandon them and leave the country. So reckless. But we're so glad you've come back with us now, Ethan. You've finally grown up. You're no longer that little boy who only knew how to fight with Logan for attention. I found it all so irritating that I just put in my earbuds. After the plane landed, they were about to excitedly call my adoptive parents, but I stopped them. I hailed a nondescript cab and gave a driver the address of my old home. During the ride, I glanced at my phone. The internet was still full of articles calling me an ungrateful monster. The narrative, bolstered by my adoptive parents' tearful on-air interviews, had reached a fever pitch. When my adoptive mother saw me, her demeanor was nothing like the gentle, heartbroken woman from the interviews. Her face twisted into a vicious sneer, and she grabbed a broom and swung it at me. You curse. What are you doing here? Get out. My parents, standing beside me, were stunned by the scene. My father instinctively moved to block the blow. What are you doing hitting him? He yelled. My parents were wearing face masks, so my adoptive mother, Brenda, didn't recognize them. She just assumed they were a couple of my colleagues. She spat viciously in my father's direction. I'll hit him however I damn well please. What's it to you? She tilted her head back, her voice dripping with smug cruelty. What? You feel sorry for him? I've been beating him since he was a kid, never left a clean patch of skin on his body. Are you going to feel sorry for him every time? This was how she'd always been, using violence against me to assert her power. It was the complete opposite of the story Logan had sold my parents. They narrowed their eyes, their gazes flickering between me and her. I knew what they were thinking. They suspected this was some elaborate act I was staging. They would always lean toward believing Logan. Brenda, assuming I held no real status in my new family, showed me no respect at all. She continued her tirade of curses, words so vile that even my parents began to frown. Just then, a neighbor rushed into the yard and pulled me behind her. "You foolish boy. Why did you come back? Run. You finally escaped this hellhole. Don't come back." Brenda was furious. "What did you just say?" The neighbor laughed coldly. "Everyone in this village knows what your family is. The husband gets drunk and takes it out on his own son, and the wife looks at the boy like he's her mortal enemy, starving him for days. I tried to sneak him a piece of bread once, and you poured hot oil on his arm." She pointed a shaking finger at Brenda. "You're not human. You'll get what's coming to you." Then she turned to my father, her voice dropping. "And that man of hers, a real man, molesting his own adoptive son." My father clenched his fists, his eyes turning crimson with rage. He looked like he wanted to grab the nearest heavy object and murder the man inside the house. My mother froze. Then, as if possessed, she lunged forward and shoved up my sleeve, revealing the palm-sized scar on my arm. Ugly, hopeless, permanent. The scar I had once shown them to prove my adoptive mother's cruelty. Their response at the time? "I can't believe you'd be so cruel to yourself at such a young age. You must really be desperate to compete with Logan." Brenda was even more defiant now. "He's not my real son. He's lucky I gave him a roof over his head." The neighbor's cold laugh echoed again. Right. Everyone in town knows. Everyone knows that you, Brenda, bribed a nurse to swap your baby so your own son could grow up a rich young master. And then you abused this one. You're a piece of trash." My father went rigid. He grabbed the neighbor's arm, his voice a raw whisper. "Is what you're saying true?" "Of course it's true. Go ask anyone in this village. There isn't a person here who doesn't feel sorry for Ethan. There isn't a person who hasn't cursed your family behind your back. We were all so happy when we heard he'd gone to live with his real parents. We figured they must be heartbroken over what happened to him." My parents, who just moments before had been silently vowing revenge on my behalf, suddenly fell quiet. In that moment, the guilt crashed down on them with the force of a physical blow. They had never felt sorry for me. They hadn't even believed me. They couldn't dare to imagine what I must have endured for over a decade to make an entire village pity me. My father couldn't take it anymore. His eyes blazing, he grabbed a thick stick from the side of the house, his hands trembling as he brought it down on Brenda. "Our Ethan, our kind, good boy. How could you? How could you be so heartless?" Brenda let out a shriek and pointed a bony, furious finger at him. "You dare hit me? My son is Logan Rivers. My son told me. This worthless brat has no status in the Cole family. My son is the true heir. Who the hell do you think you are? You mess with me, you're dead." My father didn't waste any more words. He simply pulled down his mask. Brenda's jaw dropped. She stared dumbfounded. My parents called the police. Child abuse, conspiracy, bribing a nurse to switch infants. With that many charges, my adoptive parents would spend the rest of their lives in prison. It was only when the police were reading them their rights that they realized the man standing before them was the CEO of the Cole Corporation. They instantly panicked, scrambling on their knees toward my father. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole, please. Have mercy on us. For the sake of the wonderful son we gave you, Logan, please spare us." Then she crawled over to my feet, banging her head on the dusty ground. Ethan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been bad to you. I wasn't thinking straight. Ethan." No one paid her any attention. My mother, still seething, kicked her heart a few times for good measure. On the way back, it was clear my parents finally understood how badly they had misjudged me. They wanted to apologize, but the words were lodged in their throats. The damage they had done was too great. No apology could ever fix it. When Logan heard we had visited his biological mother's home, he showed no concern that she was being sent to prison. Instead, he rushed to us, his face a mask of panic. "Dad, what did she tell you? That woman is insane. Don't believe a word she says." He was terrified she had revealed the truth about my life with them. My father just laughed, a harsh, bitter sound, and started clapping slowly. "Bravo. A real credit to your mother. Even now, all you can think about is saving your own skin." He turned on Logan, his voice shaking with rage. "I must have been blind to hurt my own son for you, over and over again. Get out. Get out of my house." Logan looked desperately toward my mother. "Mom, What is Dad talking about? I don't understand. He expected her to leap to his defense, to start a fight with my father on his behalf, just as she always had. But this time, my mother's face was a thundercloud. She slapped him hard across the face. Logan, this family has given you everything. You ungrateful snake. What more could you possibly want? Why did you have to slander Ethan? Logan collapsed onto the floor, finally understanding that it was all over. All he could do was cry and beg. Mom, I'm sorry, I just love you both so much. I was so scared Ethan would take your love away from me. I'm sorry. He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. Ethan is your real son. He at least has that blood connection. But I have nothing. I was so scared. Mom, please forgive me, please. My mother stared down at him, her face filled with disgust. Was it really just about being afraid of him, competing for our affection? Logan's head snapped up. My father, reining in his fury, threw a thick file of documents at him. The sharp edges of the paper cut Logan's cheek, drawing blood, but my parents didn't even flinch. Logan picked up the papers. As he read, the color drained from his face. It was a complete record of all the funds he had secretly transferred out of the company over the past several years. My parents had known about it all along. At the time, they dismissed it as youthful foolishness and pretended not to know. But now they understood. It wasn't immaturity. It was pure evil. My parents used that evidence to press charges against Logan. Then they used their company's official Twitter account to post a long, public apology to me, detailing exactly how Logan had used my bloody sweater to deceive the world and launch his acting career. Almost overnight, Logan's fan base evaporated. WTF, Logan Rivers is that kind of person? So shameless. Just a little while ago, he was crying on TV about finding his long-lost brother. Turns out he was just slandering him the whole time. What a fake. I always thought he looked like a creep. Everyone was bashing Ethan Cole back then, so I didn't say anything, but I'm glad he's finally been exposed. Can't believe how horribly Ethan was treated. What kind of parents protect the fake son and abuse their real one? Ugh. And they had the nerve to post missing person alerts on TV. Ethan, run. Go somewhere no one can ever find you and live a good life. In the end, Logan was convicted and sent to prison. I returned to my research group, disappearing back into the mountains. My parents, in a desperate attempt to find me, sold all their assets. They traveled all over the world, searching every corner, but they never found me. Every Friday night at 8 o'clock, a new plea for me to come home would air on national television. In our research facility, every Friday at that time, my colleagues would silently agree to turn the TV off. The last time a missing person report about me aired, I was in the middle of a severe crisis of confidence. A critical error in my data had set our project back, and though no one in the group blamed me, in fact, they went out of their way to comfort me, it only made my self-recrimination worse. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this kind of work. On a whim, I did something I hadn't done in months. I turned on the television. On the screen, my parents looked much older. Their hair was streaked with gray, and their faces were etched with weariness. Ethan, my father said, looking directly into the camera, your mother and I no longer expect your forgiveness. We only ask that you be good to yourself in the life you lead from now on. What happened before was our fault, my mother added, her voice thick with emotion. Don't let our mistakes make you doubt yourself. You are a good, wonderful person. You are kind, sincere, intelligent, and brave. Take those qualities and go explore the world. Ethan, my father concluded, we won't bother you anymore. We hope you can live the life you've always wanted. It was like a switch flipped in my brain. Because of my upbringing, I had always reflexively suppressed myself. I believe my adoptive mother didn't love me because I was flawed. I believe my biological parents didn't love me because I was flawed. I was trapped in a vicious cycle of self-doubt, the first one to give up on myself whenever I faced a challenge. But it wasn't my fault. Some things were never my fault. I turned around, walked back to the lab, and started the experiment over from scratch. This time I succeeded. Tears of joy and relief streamed down my face. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over my phone, wondering if I should send my parents a text to thank them. Just then my phone, which rarely had a signal, buzzed with a news alert. Nation mourns as catastrophic earthquake hits Chicago. My heart leaped into my throat. I clicked on the link. The epicenter was right in the heart of the city. The images were terrifyingly familiar. Collapsed buildings, dust-filled air, the sounds of distant screams. The prison walls had crumbled, and many inmates who tried to escape, including Logan and my adoptive parents, were swallowed by fissures that opened in the ground. Even though they had caused me so much pain, seeing the scale of this national tragedy, I felt a pang of sorrow. I hesitated again, my fingers slowly typing out a message to my parents, just to ask if they were safe. Before I could hit send, a new text message came through. It was from my mother. "Ethan, there's been an earthquake. Your father and I are trapped. We're not going to make it out. Now I finally know how helpless you must have felt. I suppose this is our karma. There are no words to express how sorry I am. All I want now is for you to forget us, forget the pain we caused you, and live a good life." A second text came through immediately after, from my father. "Ethan, your mother and I love you." The moment I read it, a cheer erupted from the TV. They've been found. The camera zoomed in as rescue workers pulled away a large slab of concrete, revealing my parents' blood-streaked faces. I hadn't even had a chance to feel a flicker of hope before one of the rescuers slowly shook his head. The news anchor's voice cracked as he announced that the number of confirmed dead had just increased by 2. A few days later, my parents' lawyer found me. He informed me that in their final moments, they had amended their will, leaving their entire estate to me. I took the bank card, which felt scorching hot in my hand, and donated every last cent to the city's earthquake relief and rebuilding fund. It was the least I could do to help them build some good karma. Later, while working on a project deep in the wilderness, I met my other half. With Professor Albright as our witness and our entire research team cheering us on, we had a simple wedding. And then, we had a beautiful baby girl. I poured all the love and care I had never received into her. She's a sweet little thing, constantly telling me, over and over, "I love you, Daddy. I love you so, so much." It always makes my eyes well up. My first life was one of displacement and sorrow, but my second life has been filled with good people. With their sincerity and love, they have carefully and patiently raised the insecure, sensitive boy I was into the man I am today. I had a dream. In it, I saw myself as a little boy, crying in that dark, cold shed. I went to him, leaned in close, and whispered in his ear, "Don't be afraid. It's all over now. You didn't do anything wrong. Someday, people will love you for who you are. You'll have a real home. You'll be happy. You deserve all of it."